Hey everybody, I'm back. Did you miss me? Recording another market update for you, this time for the month of January, first full month of 2021. I apologize, I didn't do this last month. I didn't give you a December update. December was a great month, by the way, but it's way in the past. And during the time that I would have been recording this, I was laying on a beach, and well, that took priority. So I'm back. Plan to do one of these every month. People are always asking me, Taylor, how's the market? How's business? And if you're my friend or you're my family, the short answer is good. I'm busy. Everything's going great. But the complete answer is more complicated. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of different angles to look at it from. So that's why I want to give you this little snapshot of the market using some resources provided to me by my office, Redline. And I'm going to break things down for you. If you want to skip to the end, the short answer is the market is going really well. But of course, that depends whether you're buying or selling and what you're buying or selling. So I'm going to break it down into categories, and I'm going to break it down into different details. I'm going to look at some stuff like the sales volume, the inventory situation, the benchmark price, the sales price to list price ratio, how many days on the market. And I'll give you sort of a crash course on how things are going in real estate in Calgary and how they went in January 2021. So to start with, I'm going to show you this graph here. This is the 12-month trend. So sorry for the fine print. January 2020, back on the beginning, works its way up to January 2021. And the bars, that's the inventory. This is all residential real estate in Calgary. So that includes houses, townhouses, duplexes, apartments, row homes, and those vertical bars, that's the inventory. So as you can see, going through the year 2020, the inventory sort of climbed up and then peaked in the summer and then came down pretty sharply towards the end of the year and the beginning of this year. The red vertical bars, that's your sales volume. So what you're going to see is through the second half of the year, those are on sort of opposite paths. The inventory is falling while the sales are kind of rising relative to last year anyway. And that line across the middle, that is the benchmark price. And that corresponds with the y-axis on the right side of the graph. So you can see that kind of hovered, between, what is that, sort of 400 and 415, and had that big dip. You can see that big dip there. That's at the beginning of the lockdown. And, there was not a lot of activity, and people were really scared, and prices took a little dip, and then they started climbing back up, and they never stopped climbing for the rest of the year. So I'm going to break this down further. I'm going to show you different categories of property and what happened in January with those. So this is detached. This is detached homes, and we're looking at 6 metrics here. So that first one is the inventory. So, and to give you a preview here, it's all good news. When you see the green writing there, that means it's going in the right direction. So for sale inventory, 1,685. That's down 32%. So this is year over year. This is January 2021 versus January of 2020. So our inventory at this time last year, January last year, 32% more houses on the market. Sales, so sold, 732 detached homes sold in January. That is up 42% over the year before. So if you look at, that's a huge swing. January 2020, not a great month, but pretty typical January for the last few years in Calgary. Compared to that, we have way less inventory and way more sales. So you can imagine what that does to the demand. There's a lot less supply, there's a lot more demand. So that drives some of the other metrics on here. New listings, down 8%, 1,113 new listings were added to the market in January. So last year, we had way more inventory, and in fact, last year for sales in Calgary, was up, 40% year over year. But not only that, it was the best month in sales for residential real estate in Calgary since 2014. So huge step in the right direction. So average price, $559,499. That's up 3.69%. That's a pretty nice gain. 3.69%. You do the math. 1% of a $500,000 house, that's $5,000. So the prices are starting to climb up. We're not going to see that big spike. We're not seeing that bubble activity that's going on in Vancouver or Toronto, but we're seeing a little mini version of it. And what we're seeing is a healthier version of that, where it's not going to something unsustainable. It's just starting this nice steady climb, and we can expect that to continue through the year. Days on market, 53. So that represents the average number of days it took to sell a detached home in Calgary. So 53 days, pretty quick as an average, and that's down 13% year over year. So houses are selling for more. We're selling more houses, and they're selling faster. And then that last thing there, sold price versus list price, 97.25%, up 1.25 points. That means they're selling for closer to what people asked. So it's all good news, especially in detached, and it's shifted us for the first time in a long time into a seller's market condition where there are more buyers right now than sellers. So if you're in the hot part of the market, especially in that sort of $450,000 to $600,000 range, the sort of meat and potatoes detached homes, those things hit the market and they're sold right away, and they're sold for what people are asking, and often with multiple competing offers. So something we haven't seen in a long time, and pretty exciting if you're selling your house in Calgary right now. It's good news. The next slide this is apartments. Now, last time we talked, I told you, apartments were on the opposite end of the spectrum from detached. There was more apartments going on the market. There was a flood of supply. Sales were shrinking, and prices were going down. So this is really good news for apartments. In January, they kind of bounced a little bit. They kind of feels like they hit the bottom, and they bounced a little bit. Maybe people were seeing what good deals there were in apartments, and the inventory went down. The sales went up 26%. So compared to last January 2020, 185 sales. That's up 26% from the year before. New listings is down. Price is up quite a bit. 9.5% increase in average price on apartments. So that can be from a few like really big, $1 million plus penthouses being sold and pulling that average up. But either way you get to that number, it's good news. It means people were buying apartments where they weren't last year, and they weren't for most of 2020. The days on market number, that's down as well, 16%, move in the right direction. Sold price to list price, down a tiny bit, like a statistically insignificant amount, 0.5%. But in general, apartments sell within 5% of what people were asking. Now, another category here, row homes. So that's your townhouses. Good news, all good news across the board for townhouses too. So inventory down, sales up, 32% increase in sales on row homes. Now, row homes, apartments, semi-detached, which I'm going to get to, and detached as well. This lack of supply is what's seems to be driving the seller's market conditions and the increase in price and the decrease in inventory. There's just not a lot out there. Builders didn't do a lot of building last year, so their inventory has dried up as the demand's picked up. So as they get online and they can start to put out, quick possession homes again, this will probably stabilize a little more. But at the moment, seller's market, hot market. So 32.74 increase in sales. New listings, those are also up 9.73%. So that's generally a bad news that there's more new listings compared to last year, but they are selling. The sales are up 32%, so it kind of cancels out. Average price down a tiny bit, 3%. And again, when we're talking average, that could that doesn't necessarily mean that your house is worth less. That might mean that the cheaper houses are more popular. So that might mean that, you know, like it's averaged at 302,000 for a row home. You can get some. There's some cheap row home product out there in the 200s, and that can be pulling down the price of high sales volume and that stuff too. So days on market down 15%. 67 days on market on average to sell your row home. Sold price versus list price up 96.8%, almost 97%, which is all pretty healthy. So the last category is semi-detached, and semi-detached had a huge run. This is a really popular category right now. Semi-detached means half a duplex, so it means there's one party wall. So down 40%. Now, a lot of these semi-detached are infills, you know, inner city infills, and a lot of those infills are built by, you know, independent custom builders, and they were kind of shut down for a lot of last year. So that can explain a lot of the reduction in supply. And of course, a reduction in supply goes against an increase in demand, right? So 141 of those sold in January. That's up 67.86%. So a huge increase in sales of that semi-detached product. Some of that could be caused, I'm speculating here, by, you know, maybe people looking for a detached home. And I've experienced this with my last two sales. I had clients looking at detached homes, and then they went for the same amount of money, they could get a way nicer home if they didn't mind sharing a wall with someone. So, you know, for your same 400 grand or your same 900 grand or whatever it is, you get maybe a more upgraded semi-detached in a better location. So it's a nice compromise if you don't want to live in an apartment or a condo anymore. You want your own space, but you want to stay within a budget. So huge increase in sales on those semi-detached. Huge decrease in new listings, down almost 12%. Again, that speaks to the shortage of supply. Average price slipped a little bit, down 0.7%. And again, when we're talking averages, there's a really hot market right now in Calgary for cheap semi-detached with a secondary suite. It's a really hot product for investors, so there's been a lot of trading volume for that type of product. That could be bringing down the average a little bit. So I'm not too worried about that average. Days on market, average of 59, down almost 17%. So more sales, selling for faster, selling for more money, and selling for closer to asking, about 0.58% on sales to list price ratio. So that's kind of your quick summary of what the market is doing. It's all good news. There are lots of buyers. There are not a lot of sellers, and it's just a great here. If I were to look at these numbers for Vancouver, the prices are like triple. You know, detached houses in Vancouver, Toronto are you know 1.4, 1.5 million plus, and you know condos are knocking on $1 million. So we're in a major metro market that's thriving. Not the best year we've had, but we still have a net migration to our city. People still want to live in Calgary, and people can still afford to live in a house here. So it's all good news. If you have questions, if you want more detail, shoot me a message, give me a call, and thanks for watching.